Ethan Blake was once a god among men, the face of American football, the heartbeat of an empire, and a billionaire before the age of 30. He was power, glory, and perfection wrapped into a man whose name echoed through stadiums like thunder. But power has a way of breeding enemies, some in plain sight, others hidden behind smiles. On a bright Sunday afternoon, with cameras flashing and fans screaming, Ethan stepped onto the field for what was meant to be another easy victory. Instead, it became the day that ended everything. One brutal hit. One snap of bone. One breathless silence that swallowed the roar of the crowd. When the medics rushed him off the field, he wasn't just broken physically, something inside him shattered that would never fully heal. The newspapers called it a tragedy. The sponsors called it unfortunate. His teammates called it fate. But to Ethan, it was betrayal. Because deep down, he knew that hit wasn't an accident. When the surgeries were done, and the reporters vanished, Ethan was left alone in his penthouse, a man with wealth beyond reason, but a soul in ruins. He fired everyone. He stopped answering calls. His world became quiet, except for the sound of his own anger. Doctors prescribed therapy. His agent arranged for a nurse. But no one lasted long, until she arrived. Her name was Clara Moore. Calm, disciplined, almost annoyingly gentle. She had the kind of patience that could irritate a saint. To Ethan, she was just another stranger invading his misery. But to fate, she was the beginning of. Clara's first week in the mansion was hell. Ethan ignored her, mocked her, and once even rolled his wheelchair away in the middle of her instructions. But she didn't break. She simply kept showing up, quiet but firm, never asking for thanks, never flinching at his anger. Days turned into weeks. In the mornings, she'd open the curtains and let sunlight spill into the house. At first, Ethan ordered her to stop. Later, he stopped ordering. And one morning, he noticed he didn't hate the light anymore. Still, pride is a dangerous thing. He pushed himself too hard, fell during one of his exercises, and shouted at her to leave him alone. But Clara stayed, not because she pitied him, but because she saw a man who still wanted to fight. It was that same night Ethan dreamed of the tackle again, the hit, the blur of faces, and a voice shouting his name from the sidelines. He woke up drenched in sweat, heart racing, haunted by something he couldn't remember. A detail lost in the chaos. A face he could never quite see. In the following days, Clara began noticing things, phone calls that went silent when answered, envelopes left at the gate with no sender, photographs of Ethan during his recovery. At first, she dismissed them. But deep down, she felt something was wrong, that the man she was caring for was still in danger. And then, one morning, she received a message that froze her blood. Stay away from Ethan Blake, or you'll end up like your brother. For nights, Clara couldn't sleep. She kept the message hidden, terrified that Ethan would discover her secret before she could explain. Because her last name, Moore, was not a coincidence. Her brother, David Moore, had been the rookie who collided with Ethan the day his career ended. The same man fans blamed for destroying America's golden boy. And the same man found dead in a supposed car accident a year later. Ethan didn't know any of this. To him, Clara was simply the one person who still treated him like a man, not a patient. Slowly, he began to trust her. He told her things he'd never said aloud, about the emptiness of fame, the loneliness of power, the nightmares that wouldn't leave. And in return, Clara listened, her silence more comforting than words. But just as their fragile peace began to form, the past came clawing back. A journalist published a new theory, that Ethan's injury wasn't an accident but a setup arranged by someone inside his own circle. And that the hitman had been bribed. Ethan's old friend and manager, Victor Hayes, publicly dismissed it as nonsense. But when Ethan confronted him, he saw something flicker in Victor's eyes, a hesitation too sharp to ignore. Later that night, Clara found Ethan sitting in the dark, holding a photograph of himself and Victor from years ago. He didn't speak, but she could feel the storm inside him. He wanted the truth. He just didn't know yet that the truth might destroy them both. Then, 2 nights later, Ethan found the message on Clara's phone. And everything changed. The confrontation was brutal. Ethan felt his world collapse when he realized the nurse who had become his only peace was connected to the man who ruined his life. Clara tried to explain, but guilt wrapped around her words like chains. Ethan ordered her to leave. The next morning, the house felt colder than ever. He told himself he didn't care. But every hour without her felt like drowning. Clara, meanwhile, couldn't run from her own guilt. She went searching for the truth, about David, about the accident, and about Victor Hayes. What she uncovered turned her blood to ice: bank records, false witness statements, and an offshore account linked to Victor's name, the same account that paid her brother days before his death. David had been framed. The tackle wasn't ordered by him, it was arranged through him. Someone had used her brother as a pawn. And now that she'd seen the evidence, she became the next target. As Clara pieced together documents, she realized her phone was being tracked. Her emails deleted. Her apartment broken into. By the time she tried to reach Ethan again, it was too late. The car that followed her from the records office didn't stop when the light turned red. Hours later, Ethan got a call from the hospital. Clara was barely alive. Ethan hadn't stood on his own 2 feet in over a year. But that night, fueled by rage and guilt, he did. Not perfectly, not gracefully, but he stood. And he made a promise: whoever hurt Clara would pay. He used his money, his contacts, his fame, every shred of influence he had left, to expose the truth. Piece by piece, the puzzle came together. Victor Hayes had orchestrated the entire tragedy. He'd made a secret deal with rival sponsors, betting on Ethan's downfall. David Moore had discovered it, and paid with his life. When the police closed in, Victor tried to run. But Ethan was waiting. He confronted him at the stadium where everything began. And under the cold floodlights, the truth finally came to light. The confession went viral within hours. Victor was arrested. Ethan Blake was cleared of all the rumors that had haunted him for years. And the name of David Moore was finally redeemed. Weeks later, Clara awoke to find Ethan by her bedside, his eyes heavy but alive. He didn't speak at first. He simply smiled, the first real smile in years. They healed together, slowly. Ethan began using his fortune to build a foundation for injured athletes, the Rise Again program. Clara joined as its director, helping others find hope where she once found pain. And on the opening day, as cameras flashed and crowds applauded, Ethan stood on the podium, not as the Iron Titan the world remembered, but as a man reborn. He spoke of failure, forgiveness, and the miracle of second chances. And when he looked at Clara, he didn't see the past anymore, only the woman who had walked through fire to bring him back to life. The applause thundered. And for the first time in a long time, Ethan didn't feel broken. He felt whole. Sometimes, life destroys us to rebuild us. Sometimes, pain isn't punishment, it's preparation. Ethan Blake lost his glory, but he found something far greater. He found a love that didn't heal his wounds, it taught him how to live with them. If you were him, would you forgive the one tie